Hey, I can save your business. Beggar tells Millionaire, revealing shocking truth. Mark Thompson, a name that used to be plastered all over New York, now just a whisper in some forgotten corner of Queens. Embezzlement? Shady dealings? Bullshit. He'd built Thompson and Daughters from the ground up, brick by agonizing brick. Now, staring into that sad cup of diner coffee, the betrayal tasted worse than the lukewarm brew. Sarah, his ex, had always been a shark, but this, framing him? The news was a feeding frenzy, turning him into public enemy number one. He was toast. Then, a kid, this skinny. Little runt, maybe 10 years old, walks up bold as brass, eyes like he'd seen things no kid should see. "Hey, I can save your business," he announces, like he's ordering a burger. Mark nearly choked. "Kid, I appreciate the offer, but you're about $1 million and a miracle too late." The kid, who called himself Billy, didn't even blink. He just plopped down in the booth. And then he started talking. About forged documents. About details only someone inside Thompson and Daughters would know. He said his the fraud, and she left him a note before she vanished. Vanished. Billy was convinced she was in danger. Mark's head was spinning. This kid, the street urchin, was talking like he held all the aces. Could it be true? He looked at Billy's face, saw that same desperate fire he felt burning inside himself. What choice did he have? "All right, Billy," Mark said, feeling a tiny flicker of hope ignite. "Spill it." Billy pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. A frantic scrawl in Lisa's handwriting. She said, "Trust no one, except the kid who sees everything," Billy whispered, his voice trembling. The note had one word: O'Malley. O'Malley. The name hit Mark like a punch to the gut. A ghost from the past, linked to the dirtiest money in the city. What the hell did O'Malley have to do with this? And where was Lisa? A cold dread washed over him. This wasn't just about his company anymore. This was something way bigger, something dangerous. He had to find Lisa before it was too late. And he had a sinking feeling the truth would blow the whole damn city wide open. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer uma alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte de uma comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. "All right, Billy," Mark said, feeling a tiny flicker of hope ignite. "Spell it." Billy pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, a frantic scrawl in Lisa's handwriting. She said, "Trust no one, except the kid who sees everything," Billy whispered, his voice trembling. The note had one word: O'Malley. O'Malley. The name hit Mark like a punch to the gut. A ghost from the past, linked to the dirtiest money in the city. What the hell did O'Malley have to do with this? And where was Lisa? A cold dread washed over him. This wasn't just about his company anymore. This was something way bigger, something dangerous. He had to find Lisa before it was too late. And he had a sinking feeling the truth would blow the whole damn city wide open. "O'Malley, that son of a bitch," Mark muttered, more to himself than to Billy. He stared out the diner window, the city lights blurring through the grime. He was involved in some stuff years ago. Real nasty stuff. I thought he was gone. Mom said he was hiding, waiting, Billy said, his voice barely a whisper, waiting for the right time. Mark ran a hand through his thinning hair. This was insane. A 10-year-old kid, a missing secretary, a long-dead gangster, and his life crumbling around him. He needed a drink. Adly. "Okay, Billy," he said, forcing himself to focus. "Where do we start? You got any idea where your mom might have gone?" Billy shook his head, his eyes filled with fear. "She just said she had to protect something. Protect me." Suddenly, the diner doors swung open with a crash. 2 guys, big guys in dark suits, stormed in. They scanned the room, their eyes hard and cold. Mark instantly recognized the type. O'Malley's boys. "Shit," he breathed. "They found us." He grabbed Billy's hand, pulling him out of the booth. "Run!" he yelled, shoving him towards the back exit. They burst into the alley, the smell of garbage and stale beer hitting them like a wall. Mark risked a glance back. The goons were right behind them. No time to think. Just run. He led Billy through a maze of back streets, his lungs burning, his legs screaming. He hadn't run this hard in years. They ducked behind dumpsters, scrambled over fences, trying to lose their pursuers. Finally, they reached a dead end. A brick wall loomed in front of them. No escape. Mark felt a wave of despair wash over him. They were trapped. The goons rounded the corner, their faces grim. "Nowhere to run, Thompson," one of them sneered. "O'Malley wants to have a little chat." Mark stood his ground, shielding Billy behind him. "Tell O'Malley he can go to hell," he spat. The goon chuckled. "That can be arranged." He reached into his jacket. Suddenly, a voice rang out from above. "Leave them alone!" Everyone looked up. Standing on the fire escape above them was Lisa Johnson. But it wasn't Lisa Johnson. It was Sarah. Sarah, his ex-wife, with a gun, pointed right at the goons. "Sarah?" Mark stammered, completely dumbfounded. "What the hell?" "Don't move, assholes," Sarah yelled, her voice shaking but firm. "I said, leave them alone." The goons hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Sarah, with a gun, protecting him? This was beyond crazy. Then, everything went silent, except for Sarah, who turned her head towards Billy. Her eyes were full of tears, but her voice was steady. "I'm so sorry, Billy," she said, her voice breaking. "I should have told you sooner." And then the words that shattered everything. "I'm your mother, sweetheart." "Sarah?" Mark stammered, completely dumbfounded. "What the hell?" "Don't move, assholes," Sarah yelled, her voice shaking, but firm. "I said leave them alone." The goons hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Sarah? With a gun? Protecting him? This was beyond crazy. Then, everything went silent. Except for Sarah, who turned her head towards Billy. Her eyes were full of tears, but her voice was steady. "I'm so sorry, Billy," she said, her voice breaking. "I should have told you sooner." And then, the words that shattered everything. "I'm your mother, sweetheart." The air hung thick and heavy. Billy stared up at Sarah, his face a mask of confusion and disbelief. "Mom? But Lisa?" Sarah's eyes darted nervously. "Lisa was a friend. She helped me. O'Malley, he took you away from me years ago, said I wasn't fit to be a mother." Mark felt the ground tilt beneath him. Sarah, Billy's mother? Lisa helping her? O'Malley stealing a kid? This was some messed up family drama on a scale he couldn't even imagine. The goons used the distraction. One lunged forward, grabbing for Billy. Sarah reacted instantly, firing a shot. The bullet whizzed past the goon's ear, making him stumble back. "Get out of here!" She screamed, her voice cracking. "Take Billy and run." Mark didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed Billy's hand again and bolted down the alley, leaving Sarah to face the music. He glanced back. She was holding her own, gun steady, eyes blazing. But against two goons, it wouldn't last. They ran until their lungs burned, finally collapsing behind a stack of crates in a loading dock. Billy was panting, his eyes wide and scared. "What's going on?" he choked out. "Who is she?" Mark didn't have answers, just a swirling vortex of questions and disbelief. "I don't know, kid. But we gotta get her out of there." Suddenly, a car screeched to a halt nearby. Headlights blazed, illuminating the alley. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the light. It wasn't Sarah, it was O'Malley. He walked slowly towards them, a sinister smile playing on his lips. "Well, well, well," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "Looks like the rat is finally cornered." But then O'Malley took another step forward, and the light caught his face. Mark gasped. It wasn't O'Malley, it was himself. He was staring at his own face, older, more hardened, but undeniably his own. "Hello, Mark," the man said, his voice a chilling echo of Mark's own. "Long time no see, brother." Billy whimpered beside him. Mark's mind reeled. A long-lost brother? A brother who was O'Malley? This wasn't just a business deal gone wrong, or even a family drama. This was a goddamn Greek tragedy, and he was right in the middle of it. And he had a feeling, a sickening, gut-wrenching feeling, that it was about to get a whole lot worse. Because behind his brother, stepping out of the car, was Sarah, and she was smiling. A cold, calculating smile that Mark had never seen before. And in her hand, she wasn't holding a gun anymore. She was holding a leash. And on the other end of that leash was a snarling, bloodthirsty Doberman. Her eyes met Mark's, and she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "Checkmate." "Hello, Mark," the man said, his voice a chilling echo of Mark's own. "Long time no see, brother." Billy whimpered beside him. Mark's mind reeled. A long-lost brother? A brother who was O'Malley? This wasn't just a business deal gone wrong, or even a family drama. This was a goddamn Greek tragedy, and he was right in the middle of it. And he had a feeling, a sickening, gut-wrenching feeling, that it was about to get a whole lot worse. Because behind his brother, stepping out of the car, was Sarah. And she was smiling. A cold, calculating smile that Mark had never seen before. And in her hand, she wasn't holding a gun anymore. She was holding a leash. And on the other end of that leash was a snarling, bloodthirsty Doberman. Her eyes met Mark's, and she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "Checkmate." The dog lunged, straining at the leash, teeth bared. Mark pushed Billy behind him, sear a cold knot in his stomach. Sarah, his Sarah, had orchestrated all of this? The setup, the frame? Even Billy? It was too much to process. What is this, Sarah?" he choked out, his voice barely a whisper. She laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that sent shivers down his spine. "Don't you get it, Mark? It was always about the money. Your money. And you are too damn trusting." His brother, this twisted version of himself, chuckled. "Sarah's a natural, isn't she? Always thinking 3 steps ahead." He glanced at Mark, a flicker of something, pity, in his eyes. "You always were the good one, Mark. The one who played by the rules. That's why you lost." "But why?" Mark stammered. "Why go to all this trouble?" Sarah stepped forward, her smile widening. "Because, darling, you were going to leave me. I found the divorce papers. After all I've done for you, done for me?" Mark exploded. "You ruined my life! You framed me! You used that kid!" He looked at Billy, who was staring up at Sarah with wide, confused eyes. And then Sarah did something that made the blood run cold in Mark's veins. She knelt down in front of Billy, cupping his face in her hands. "It's okay, honey," she cooed, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Mommy's here now. Mommy's going to take care of you, just like she took care of Daddy." Daddy? Mark's head spun. What the hell was she talking about? Suddenly, Billy's eyes widened in terror. He recoiled from Sarah, scrambling back towards Mark. "He's lying. You're lying. Lisa told me." Mark grabbed Billy, pulling him close. "Told you what, kid? What did Lisa tell you?" Billy's voice trembled. She said Sarah killed her husband, your partner. She said it was an accident, but she was scared of her ever since." A wave of nausea washed over Mark. Sarah, a murderer? His partner, dead by her hand. It was all too much, too fast. He looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and saw a darkness he had never imagined existed. His brother stepped closer, a glint in his eye. "Looks like our little secret's out," he said, his voice laced with menace. "Time to tie up loose ends, wouldn't you say, Sarah?" Sarah nodded, her smile gone, replaced by a cold, hard stare. She snapped her fingers, and the Doberman lunged again, its snarls echoing in the alley. Mark knew he was out of time. He had to protect Billy, no matter the cost. But then, just as the dog was about to attack, a shot rang out. Not from Sarah, from behind them. Mark whirled around, shielding Billy with his body. Standing in the entrance to the alley, gun smoking, was Lisa. But it wasn't Lisa. It was his mom. His dead mom. But it couldn't be. He saw her die. He blinked, and she was gone. Just a trick of the light, the stress. Then another shot. His brother O'Malley crumpled to the ground. "Sorry I'm late, Mark." His mother's voice croaked. Traffic was a bitch. But it was Sarah holding the gun, smiling. Then everything went black. The dog froze mid-lunge. Everyone did. My brother, Sarah, even Billy. His face streaked with tears and confusion. "Sorry I'm late, Mark," a voice croaked. Traffic was a bitch. But it wasn't my mom. It was Sarah holding the gun, smiling. Then everything went black. I woke up on the floor of the loading dock, head throbbing. Billy was shaking me, whispering my name. Sarah and my brother were gone. So was the dog. Blood stained the concrete where my brother had fallen. He's dead, right?" Billy stammered, pointing at the body. I nodded, my mind still struggling to catch up. Sarah, his mother, a killer. My brother, gone. And that leash, that damn dog. "We gotta get out of here, kid," I said, pulling myself to my feet. "Now." We ran, again, back through the alley, into the maze of streets. But this time, something was different. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about understanding, about finding out what the hell was going on. We ended up back at the diner, the only place I could think of that felt even remotely safe. The place was empty, the waitress wiping down tables, looking bored. I dragged Billy into a booth, my head swimming. "Okay, kid," I said, my voice raspy. "Tell me everything. Everything Lisa told you about Sarah." He hesitated, his eyes darting around the diner. Then he started talking about hushed phone calls, secret meetings, lies upon lies, how Lisa had been terrified of Sarah, how she'd seen her change after her husband, my partner, died. "Lisa said, she said Sarah was obsessed with you," Billy whispered. "She said she thought she was crazy." Crazy. Yeah, that sounded about right. Obsessed, manipulative, and a killer. Then Billy said something that made my blood run cold. Lisa also said that Sarah wasn't always Sarah. I stared at him confused. What the hell does that mean? He shrugged, his face pale. She said Sarah had a twin sister, and that Sarah died a long time ago in a car accident. A twin sister? Dead? What the hell was this kid talking about? This was beyond crazy. This was... Suddenly, the diner door chimed. I turned, my hand instinctively reaching for my pocket. Empty. No gun. Standing in the doorway was a woman. Older, maybe in her late 50s, dressed in a simple but elegant suit. She looked familiar. Very familiar. She walked slowly towards our booth, her eyes fixed on me. And then she spoke. "Mark," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's been a long time." I stared at her, my mind racing. Where had I seen her before? Why did she seem so familiar? Do I know you?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "I think you do, Mark. I'm your mother." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible," I said, my voice shaking. "My mother is dead." She shook her head, her eyes filled with tears. "No, Mark, I'm very much alive, and I've been waiting a long time to tell you the truth." She sat down across from me, reaching out and taking my hand. Her touch was warm, familiar. "Sarah," she said, her voice low and urgent. "She's not Sarah. She's her twin sister, and she's been pretending to be her for years. Ever since the car accident. She killed your partner. She framed you, and she used my grandson, Billy, to get close to you." I stared at her, my mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. This was too much. But why? I choked out. Why would she do all this? My mother looked at me, her eyes filled with pain. "Because, Mark," she said, her voice breaking, "she's not after your money. She's after revenge. Revenge for what happened to her sister. And she blames you." "Revenge? Blames me? For what?" Then the pieces started to fall into place. The car accident, Sarah's obsession, the lies. It all made sense. In a twisted, horrifying way. But there was one thing I still didn't understand. "If you are my mother," I said, my voice trembling, "then why haven't you been here all these years? Where have you been?" Her eyes flickered, and she looked away, her face etched with pain. "That's a story for another time, Mark," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Right now, we need to stop Sarah, before she hurts anyone else, before she hurts Billy." Before she hurts Billy. The words echoed in my head. I looked at Billy, who was staring at my mother with wide, confused eyes. He deserved the truth. We all did. "No," I said, my voice suddenly firm. "Tell me now. Tell me everything. I deserve to know the truth." My mother hesitated, then took a deep breath. "All right, Mark," she said, her voice trembling, "but you're not going to like it." Suddenly, the diner door swung open. I turned, my heart pounding in my chest. Standing in the doorway was Sarah, smiling, and beside her was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Sarah looked at me, her eyes gleaming with malice. "Surprise, Mark," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "I thought you should meet your daughter." "Surprise, Mark," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "I thought you should meet your daughter." My head swam. Daughter? Another lie? Another manipulation? I looked at the little girl, her eyes wide and innocent, clutching Sarah's leg. She had Sarah's eyes. "Damn it. What is this, Sarah?" I growled, trying to keep the panic from my voice. "Isn't she sweet?" "She's been asking about you, Daddy," Sarah purred, a twisted smile on her face. "Say hello, Lily." The little girl, Lily, peeked out from behind Sarah's leg, her gaze fixed on me. She raised a tiny hand in a hesitant wave. My heart clenched. This couldn't be real. Don't listen to her, Lily, I said, my voice trembling. She's not well. Sarah's smile wide. Darling, I'm better than ever. And Lily here is the perfect insurance policy. You wouldn't want anything to happen to her, would you, Mark? My mother, who had been silent until now, stepped forward, her face etched with fury. You're insane, Sarah. You can't keep doing this. Leave him alone. Sarah laughed, a shrill, unsettling sound. Oh, I don't think so, Mommy dearest. This is far too much fun. She looked at me, her eyes cold and calculating. You see, Mark, I've been planning this for a long time. Every detail, every twist. And now it's time for the grand finale. Suddenly, Billy tugged on my sleeve, his face pale with fear. Mark, I remember something, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Lisa, she told me. She said the twin sister, she wasn't dead. She was hiding, waiting for Sarah. Hiding? Waiting? What the hell was he talking about? Before I could ask, the unthinkable happened. The little girl, Lily, stepped away from Sarah, her eyes locking onto mine. And then, in a voice that was too deep, too mature for a child, she spoke. Hello, Daddy. My blood turned to ice. That voice, it wasn't Lily's. It was Lisa's. But how? It was impossible. Lisa was dead, wasn't she? Then, Lily's face began to change. Her features shifted, morphed, twisted into something grotesque, inhuman. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The air around her crackled with energy. Sarah screamed, stumbling backward, her face contorted with terror. What is happening, Lily? But it wasn't Lily anymore. It was something else, something ancient, something evil, something not human. The creature that had been Lily turned its gaze on me, and a chorus of voices echoed in my mind. We have been waiting for you, Mark. Waiting to settle the score, the price. If your soul. And then everything went black. The voices echoing. We have been waiting for you, Mark. Waiting to settle the score. The price is your soul. Then nothing. I woke up on the diner floor again, head pounding, worse than before. Billy was gone. Sarah, the freaky Lily monster, all gone. My mom? Had she even been there? It felt like a fever dream. I staggered up, grabbing onto a booth for support. The waitress, bless her heart, was staring at me like I'd sprouted a second head. You okay, hun? She asked, cautiously. Yeah, I mumbled. Just peachy. I needed to get out of there, needed to find Billy, and figure out what the hell was real. I burst out of the diner, the cold air hitting me like a slap. The street was empty, silent, too silent. Then I saw it. A note tucked under the windshield wiper of my beat-up Corolla. Meet me where it began. You know the place. M? My mom? Or someone else? Where it began. That had to be the old Thompson and Daughters headquarters. The place where I built my empire. Before it all came crashing down. I didn't hesitate. I jumped in the car and floored it. Adrenaline pumping. The old HQ was a wreck, abandoned years ago. But something told me this was where the answers were. Or, at least, where I'd find more questions. I pulled up to the building, the place looking even more dilapidated than I remembered. Broken windows, graffiti everywhere. The ghost of a life I used to have. I walked inside, the air thick with dust and decay. Moonlight streamed through the shattered windows, casting long, eerie shadows. Hello? I called out, my voice echoing in the empty space. Anyone there? Silence. Then a voice, faint, but familiar. "Mark! Is that you?" It was my mom. I followed the sound, my heart pounding. I found her in what used to be my office, sitting in a creaky old chair, a gun in her lap. "Mom, what's going on? Where's Sarah? Where's Billy?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a sadness I'd never seen before. "It's time you knew the truth, Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "The real truth." She took a deep breath and began to speak. About Sarah, about her twin sister, about the accident that changed everything. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. "The accident? It wasn't an accident, Mark. I caused it." I stared at her stunned. "What? What are you saying?" "Sarah was troubled," she continued, her voice breaking. "She was always jealous of you, of your success. She wanted what you had. So I helped her get rid of her sister." My mind reeled. My own mother, a murderer. "But why?" I stammered. "Why would you do that?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with a desperate plea. "I did it for you, Mark. I thought it would make you happy. I thought it would give you everything you ever wanted." Then a door slammed open behind me. I whirled around, and there she was, Sarah, holding Billy by the arm, and a gun. "Enough!" Sarah screamed, her face twisted with rage. "I'm tired of your lies. I'm tired of everything." She pointed the gun at my mother. "It's your fault this all happened. You ruined my life." "Sarah, no!" I yelled, lunging forward. But it was too late. Sarah pulled the trigger. My mom screamed, but the bullet didn't hit her. It hit Billy. He crumpled to the ground, a look of shock on his face. Sarah stared at him, her eyes wide with horror. "Oh God," she whispered, "what have I done?" Then everything went silent, except for the ringing in my ears and the sound of Billy's shallow breath. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. "Mark," he whispered, "help me." And then he closed his eyes. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. "Mark," he whispered, "help me." And then he closed his eyes. Everything went still, silent. I didn't know what to do. My mother, a murderer. Sarah, a psycho. And Billy? "No, no!" I screamed, the sound ripping through the silence. I knelt beside him, frantically checking for a pulse. Nothing. Gone. Just like that. Sarah was just standing there, staring at Billy's lifeless body, tears streaming down her face. The gun slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. I didn't mean to," she choked out, her voice barely audible. "It was an accident, I swear." Then her gaze snapped to me, her eyes filled with a chilling emptiness. "It's all your fault, Mark," she hissed. "You did this to him. You did this to us." She lunged at me, claws outstretched, a wild animal unleashed. But then something incredible happened. My mother, who I thought was paralyzed with shock, moved with lightning speed. She grabbed the discarded gun and pointed it at Sarah. "Get away from him!" she screamed, her voice filled with a desperate fury. Sarah froze, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Mom, what are you doing?" she stammered. My mother's face was a mask of pain and determination. "I'm stopping this," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Right now, once and for all." She took a deep breath, and then she pulled the trigger, but she wasn't aiming at Sarah. She was aiming at herself. The shot rang out, deafening in the small office. My mother crumpled to the ground, the gun falling from her limp hand. Sarah screamed, a sound of pure, unadulterated horror. She rushed to my mother's side, frantically trying to stop the bleeding. "Mom! No! What have you done?" she cried, her voice cracking with grief. But it was too late. My mother was gone. I was frozen in place, unable to move, unable to speak. My head was spinning. My heart was pounding. What the hell was happening? Then Sarah looked up at me, her face contorted with pain and despair. And she said something that shattered everything I thought I knew. "You don't understand, Mark," she sobbed, her voice broken. "She wasn't just my mother, she was yours too." My blood ran cold. "What? What are you talking about?" Sarah's voice trembled. "She was your mother and your father. She was both." The words hit me like a physical blow. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about my family, about everything, it was all a lie. My mother was also my father? It was impossible, insane. But as I looked at Sarah's face, at the pain in her eyes, I knew she was telling the truth. And suddenly, everything started to make sense. My mother's, her protectiveness, her secrets, the lies, it all clicked into place. My head was spinning. I needed to get out of there. I needed to get away from all of it. I couldn't breathe. I turned and ran, blindly stumbling through the abandoned building, tears streaming down my face. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to escape. As I burst out of the building, I saw something that stopped me dead in my tracks, standing across the street. Bathed in the pale moonlight was a figure, tall, gaunt, and strangely familiar. It was Billy, but it couldn't be. Billy was dead. I saw him die. But there he was, staring at me with a chilling smile. And then he spoke, his voice a low, guttural growl. "You thought it was over, Mark?" he said, his voice sending shivers down my spine. "It's only just beginning." And then his eyes glowed red. "You thought it was over, Mark?" he said, his voice sending shivers down my spine. "It's only just beginning." And then his eyes glowed red. I didn't wait to see what came next. I ran. I ran like hell. Back to the car, engine roaring, tires screeching. I had to get away from that thing. That, whatever it was. I drove, not knowing where I was going, just trying to put as much distance as possible between me and Billy, the little kid who wasn't a little kid anymore. Finally, I pulled over on a deserted stretch of highway, my hands shaking so bad I could barely grip the steering wheel. I needed to think, needed to figure out what the hell was happening. But my thoughts were a jumbled mess. My mom, my dad, Sarah, the demon kid, it was all too much. Then I saw it, a reflection in the rearview mirror. A figure standing on the side of the road. Billy. I slammed the car into gear and sped off, but he was there. Every time I looked in the mirror, he was closer. I knew I couldn't outrun him. Whatever he was faster than any car. So I did the only thing I could think of. I slammed on the brakes, jumped out of the car, and faced him. "What do you want?" I yelled, my voice trembling. He smiled, that same chilling smile, and stepped into the light. "I want what's mine, Mark," he said, his voice a deep guttural growl. "I want your soul." "My soul? What are you talking about?" He laughed, a sound that echoed in the empty night. "You don't know, do you? You really don't know." He took another step closer, and I saw something that made my blood run cold. His face, it was changing, morphing, becoming something inhuman. Then he spoke again, and this time it wasn't just his voice. It was a chorus of voices, whispering, screaming, chanting. "We are the shadows, Mark. We are the darkness, and we have come for what is ours." Suddenly, the ground began to shake. The sky turned black, and from the darkness, they came. Demons, hundreds of them, swarming towards me, their eyes glowing red, their teeth bared. I was surrounded, trapped. There was no escape. But then, something unexpected happened. A figure emerged from the darkness, pushing through the demons, their eyes blazing with a fierce light. It was Lisa. But it couldn't be Lisa. Lisa was dead, right? She stepped in front of me, shielding me from the demons, her eyes fixed on Billy. "Get away from him!" she screamed, her voice filled with a raw power I'd never heard before. "He doesn't belong to you." Billy laughed. "You can't stop us, Lisa. He's ours now. He's always been ours." Then Lisa did something that changed everything. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a knife. A silver knife with a strange symbol etched into the blade. She held it up, the light glinting off the metal, and then she plunged it into her own heart. The demon screamed, the ground shook, and Billy, he recoiled, his face contorted with pain. "What have you done?" he shrieked, his voice cracking with despair. Lisa smiled, a weak but triumphant smile. "I broke the bond," she whispered. "He's free." And then she fell to the ground, lifeless. But as she fell, something incredible happened. The demons vanished, the sky cleared, and Billy, he was just a little boy again, scared, confused, and alone. He looked at me, his eyes filled with tears. "Mark," he whispered, "what's happening to me?" And then another voice, a voice I hadn't heard in a long time, a voice that made my blood run cold. "It's time you knew the truth, Mark." I turned and there he was, standing in the shadows, a figure I thought was long dead, my father. But it wasn't my father. It was my brother, O'Malley, the man I saw die just hours ago. He smiled a chilling, familiar smile, and then he said the words that shattered everything. "Hello, Mark. I'm your father. Hello, Mark. I am your father." Aquelas palavras cortaram como vidro. Meu irmão, O'Malley, meu inimigo, meu pai. A verdade me esmagava, me deixava sem ar. Nada fazia sentido. E Billy, o que era ele? O garoto. Me olhava, assustado, perdido. A criatura demoníaca tinha sumido, mas a inocência, será que ele ainda tinha alguma? O'Malley sorriu, um sorriso de predador. "Sempre fomos diferentes, Mark. Você o bom, eu o necessário." Ele fez um gesto para os lados. "Veja, esse é o meu verdadeiro exército, Mark." De repente, de todos os cantos do prédio, sombras se materializaram. Homens, mulheres, todos com os olhos vermelhos. A mesma aura maligna de antes. Seguidores. Soldados de O'Malley. "E você vai se juntar a nós, Mark, ou vai morrer." Eu olhei para Billy, aquele garoto. Ele era a chave para tudo aquilo. "Não", eu gritei, me colocando na frente dele. "Não vou deixar você tocar nele." O'Malley riu. "Tarde demais, irmão. Ele já é nosso." E então Sarah. Ela se levantou, cambaleando, os olhos cheios de fúria. "Eu vou acabar com isso." Ela pegou a arma tremendo. Mas para quem ela apontava? Para O'Malley? Para mim? Bang! Um tiro. O'Malley caiu. Sarah estava de pé, a arma na mão, mas seus olhos estavam confusos. Eu não sei o que fiz," ela murmurou. E então a voz. "Tola, você nunca teve controle." Lisa, vinha de Billy. O garoto sorriu. Não era o sorriso de Billy. Era algo mais. "Agora é a sua vez, Mark." Tudo ficou escuro. Acordei em lugar nenhum. Um vazio. E então a voz. "Escolha, Mark. Sua vida ou a dele." Billy estava lá, amarrado, sofrendo. Eu sabia o que tinha que fazer. "Eu me entrego", eu gritei. E então a luz. Acordei de novo, no chão. Sozinho. O prédio vazio. Billy sumiu. Mas eu sabia. Ele estava por aí. Em algum lugar. E eu ia encontrá-lo. A história não acaba aqui. Ela está apenas começando. Você precisa se inscrever agora. Não perca o Próximo capítulo dessa saga insana. Esmague o botão de like agora. Mostre seu apoio e ajude a espalhar essa história para o mundo. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas teorias. O que aconteceu com Billy? O que vai acontecer comigo? Eu quero saber. Não espere nem mais um segundo para compartilhar este vídeo com 5 amigos. Eles precisam conhecer esse final. Só os verdadeiros fãs entendem a importância de apoiar o canal. Demonstre sua lealdade e mostre que você está comigo nessa jornada. O apoio de vocês é o que me motiva a continuar. Vamos juntos desvendar os próximos mistérios.